Hello and welcome back to my channel. If you're new here, my name is Erica with Memory Box Candle Co. and I make videos all about the journey of starting a candle business. And today's video is a little different than some of my other videos, but I thought that you might find it interesting seeing the process of prepping and making candles through kind of Chris's perspective. So this is just a sped up version of him going through and wicking all of the jars. So I just wanted to walk you through the process as I'm watching him along with you. So we use CDN 2 wicks that we get from 1617. And the wick stickers that we get from California Candle Supply, as well as the jars. So the jars are matte black jars that we get from California Candle Supply, and they are 13.5 ounce jars, but we fill it with about 10 ounces of wax for our business. And then what he's doing now is he's going through and putting the wick holder on top. So the reason why we put a wick holder is because if you pour in hot wax into it, the wicks are going to droop. So you need to keep the wick straight so that the candle burns properly. As always, I've been talking about the Etsy shop that I get these custom wick holders from for the longest time. So I will have it pop up somewhere on this video as well as linked down below because you guys have always asked me about that. And that's where I get all of my custom wicks from, as well as that device that you saw that actually was going through and wicking everything. And then now he's going through and doing the prep work on our tins. So these tins are again from California Candle Supply. And looking at all this, I'm like, dang, I really wish that there wasn't that much plastic on those. But these are 8-ounce tins that he's going through and just taking some rubbing alcohol to clean them, because you want to make sure there's no dust, debris, anything at the bottom. Otherwise, it could interfere with the wick actually adhering to the bottom. So going through and just doing a quick wipe, making sure it's all evaporated, it's not staying in there, it's not going to be flammable or anything. It evaporates really quickly, especially when you're wiping it out. But that's just to make sure that there's no, no dust or anything on it that's going to prevent the wicks from adhering. I haven't noticed as many issues with the tins as I noticed with the Evermore jars. Those ones tend to get a little bit more dusty than the tins do. So this device that he is using right now, this is again another device that that Etsy shop had designed and created. I don't know if these are available or anything like that, but this was just something that, you know, he had kind of created. And because I've been working hand in hand with him since the very beginning of him, you know, with the 3D business and stuff like that with the wick holders, a lot of that is just kind of trying it out to see how it works. So he's just going through wicking all of those. And these are, again, double wicked with the CDN 2 sized wicks. And then now he's going to go through and then put in, again, those custom wick holder tops on top to make sure that the wicks are completely straight. And this whole process, typically he will prep the jars ahead of time and then pour the candles. That's what I used to do all the time. And if you're curious, Chris is pretty much my candle maker nowadays. And if you haven't been to my YouTube channel in at least like a month or so, you probably don't know that we did a move with our apartment. So we're still in our 1-bedroom apartment. And we always just had all of our candle making stuff out in the living room and the dining room. And I mean, after years and years of that, it just gets really overwhelming to see it all day long, every single day. So we decided to do a switch in our apartment, and basically now we have a studio. Technically, it's like a studio with a workshop attached, aka our old bedroom. So we just did a switch, and we are now sleeping outside. We're not sleeping outside. We are sleeping out in the living room, and we have all of the candle making stuff in the room. So it did kind of, well, it definitely did, took away of the space that we have to work in, but it also has made it a lot better mentally to not have to look at all of the stuff all of the time. So this is me taking a little video of all of the candles that he had prepped, and I think there was another table as well that he has everything prepped, and then right up there is all of the pouring station. And then now this is the prepping process for fragrance oil. So this is something that basically, you know, obviously I taught Chris how to do it in a way that I like to do everything. There's definitely been a lot of things that he does that I'm like, oh yeah, that's actually really smart. So it's interesting when you have somebody else making your product and the way that they're able to kind of organize things. I mean, he does everything with inventory, and, you know, making the candles and storage, and, you know, you guys know he's really good at organization and all that. But it's interesting when you have somebody else, like an employee. Obviously he's not like officially an employee, he's my husband, and he's just, you know, being able to do that part of the business for me. But it's interesting when you kind of get a different take on how to do things, and it really kind of gives you a different perspective when they're able to figure out something that maybe you did differently. So at this point, the best thing that I found to do when you're prepping and making a lot of candles at once is if you pour your fragrance out ahead of time in batches like this, and then he has everything written down on the sticky note so he knows which scent is which. And that really helps to be able to have everything ready, because when you're on a roll with your candle making and you are just kind of going and going and wanting to make it as fast as possible, because speed with any kind of handmade business is going to be the most profit for you. So if you can do things quicker and more efficiently, you can make more money because you can make more products in a short amount of time. So prepping ahead of time, it does take a little bit more extra work, but when you're already in the motion of doing that, it really does help to be able to prep it ahead of time. So that way, when you're making different scents, you're able to just go and grab the next fragrance oil and then be able to, you know, keep moving on instead of having to take that extra time to be able to, you know, pour that fragrance oil, make sure it's right, and then pour it into the next scent. So this is just another angle that he put up in the corner of the room that you're able to see. So obviously you can see we have a lot of racks. We have that table right there. So that 4-foot table right there has actually been really, really great for candle making. Chris says it's still not as great as he would like it to be, but overall I think that it's actually really good in terms of keeping everything steady and everything pretty leveled, because what we had an issue with in the past was actually the candles, specifically the tins. They would be really wonky. So you'd have one side that was a little bit higher than the other, and it just kind of looked a little uneven, and it drove Chris crazy. For me, it was not the biggest deal, just because I know that anybody getting candles, like, they're just gonna open it up, smell it, and then want to light it right away, and they're not really, you know, looking at it so intensely as we do as makers. But again, we want to make sure that we are putting out the best kind of products, so that does, you know, mean that we want to have everything looking really good. So these tables actually help to be able to have everything leveled. And then the device that he's using to pour is called a piston funnel. And that has really helped to be able to make a lot of candles in a short amount of space. So because we're really limited with the amount of space that we have, I also realized I left in a lot of just staring at this stuff. I should have cut that out, but when I realized that we have, you know, such a small space to make candles in, the more that you can make it easier to make more candles, the better. Which is also why I think it'd be really cool to have one of those like bakery things where you can just like, once you have the tray out, and then once you're done pouring it, you're able to, you know, put it away in like the little tray area, if you know what I'm talking about. I see them at Panera all the time, and I'm sure that you could get it on Uline or Amazon or something. But that's definitely something that I think may come in handy. And I know there's still a lot more we could do with this room in terms of maybe switching things up and having more space or stuff like that. Because as of right now, we definitely would not have the space to add in like another rack or bakery thing or, you know, anything like that. But this is just the whole process. And then I believe in the next clip, you're going to be seeing him going through. So once all the candles are completely solidified, then you go through and remove the tops, and then you trim the wicks. So I usually like to wait at least a day before I take the tops off. So I believe this was the next day, even though he's dressed the same way. And so going through, taking the tops off, the wick holders, and going through and then trimming the wicks. So I like to trim the wicks a little bit longer than 1/4 of an inch, so somewhere between 1/4 of an inch and 1/2 an inch. I believe it's around 1 centimeter actually. I can't remember exactly, but I had talked about a video a couple weeks ago talking about how I'm not like to the book exactly perfectly how you should be doing everything in terms of, you know, making the candles at 1/4 of an inch every single time. This is just what works for the blend that we had created for the candles, because it's not just soy 10, it's also beeswax as well. So it's a custom blend that we do, and it works really, really well for our candles. And, you know, just get really good feedback on it, that they perform well. And that's all that matters in my head. So I really hope you enjoyed today's video and just kind of seeing the process through somebody else, you know, making candles, with Chris making candles. And yes, I know I'm extremely lucky, super grateful to have him helping me making candles. And sometimes I like to go in and just help a little bit and pour some, because I miss it. I mean, you know, I'm still making candles because there's still some candles that I'm testing, and I like to just pour candles sometimes. But overall, I'm just super thankful, and we're making it work with what we have right now in our super small space. So I hope this was interesting, and if you enjoyed today's video, make sure to leave it a big thumbs up, as well as subscribe to the channel if you haven't already. Also, don't forget to follow me over on Instagram at Memory Box Candle Co. And I will see you in my next video.